Hey YouTube, Alex here. Are you sick of America? Are you wanting to live a better life? This subreddit is for you. If you're familiar with Reddit, reddit.com, I'd like to discuss the subreddit Amerexit. Amerexit is a forum of disaffected Americans, American people who are frustrated with the way things are going in America, who feel like things are not what they used to be, unhappy with things like the American healthcare system, various public transit systems, safety concerns. People are concerned about crime. Rather than staying and fighting, as some people argue, or trying to take some kind of action internally, they want to actually leave the United States. As of February 2024, the subreddit has over 52,000 members. The latest top threads in the subreddit are topics like to-do list before leaving USA, moving to France a couple of years to get our first baby, and advice for a possible move to Southeast Asia. Now, how do I personally feel about this? How do I feel about Amerexit? It's sad. It's really unfortunate. The state of the US has gotten so bad. People are actively looking to try to get out. And we're not talking about a couple of people who are, oh, if this guy gets elected, I'm moving to Canada. We're talking about 52,000 people and growing. When I first became familiar with this subreddit, I think it was around 35,000 members. So it's grown by 50% in a relatively short time. It's probably been maybe a year and a half that I've been familiar with it. And you've got a ton of people on there that have their own gripes with the system. They feel that the quality of life is in decline. The healthcare is not good. They're unhappy with the lack of public transportation outside of a handful of expensive cities. They're concerned about the rights of the LGBTQ community, of women, of ethnic minorities. And they feel like all of these issues are not going to get resolved in their lifetime. Personally, I do think that the US has made some great strides in my lifetime to improve the conditions for different groups of people who were not treated equally in the past. I think a fair amount of these people are people that maybe 20, 30 years ago, their family was middle class. They've actually gone down. So their standard of living has actually declined in the last 10, 15 years. Post great financial crisis, the government chose to print lots of money. I think that many of them have a good point. We are seeing the standard of living decline for many American people. In the coming years, I think that's going to continue because what we could be looking at right now economically is a decade of stagflation. That happened in the 70s. If you look at inflation adjusted returns from 69, I think, to 84, they weren't too good. People have been left behind if they didn't have leverage, if they weren't asset owners. What is stagflation? Well, stagflation is where the price of things goes up, but the economy doesn't grow. Prices keep going up, but people aren't getting as many promotions. People aren't getting the same sizable bonuses. Certain industries are shrinking. I know for me personally, I was laid off last year. From what I'm hearing, the tech industry has forever changed. They're going more to the sentiment of less is more and trying to stretch their dollars out to reach profitability. And that has impact. A lot of people have been laid off in the last year. Now, I know some people feel like all tech workers are rich. Hopefully they've saved some money and they're thinking, I've got X amount. That amount isn't that much in the US, especially if I'm not working. But now if I go and look at these other countries, I'm in Thailand right now, looking at the Philippines, Portugal, Latin America, places like Colombia, Peru, I'm going to get a way better quality of life. Maybe I can afford to deal with this nagging health issue that's been bothering me for a while. Maybe I can go and get the dental work I've been putting off. Maybe I can live in a nice place or a safe neighborhood that wouldn't be able to afford back in the States. They might be looking at the States and seeing there's crime problems and inflation problems. There's a crisis in terms of substance abuse. And so they have all these problems in America that haven't always been the case. America used to not always be like that. Some of us were hunting for that place that reminds us of the place that we grew up in. I feel a strong dose of culture shock every time I talk to one of my friends back in America and I hear about what's going on back there. I made it to this beautiful reservoir, Ankeo Reservoir. Point number two. Number two is, like all things on the internet, it can be a bit exaggerated. I'm not disputing that people are telling the truth and their honest feelings and opinions. Sometimes people who've left the country, digital nomads, expats, people like me, Unfortunately, we tend to focus on the negative. There's a self-selection bias where if you're happy in America, you're certainly not going to join a forum and shout about it. You're going to go out and live your life. Sometimes we focus too much on the negative. We don't think about the positive. For a lot of us looking to exit the US, we're benefiting a lot from the strong economy of the past. We benefit a lot from having well-funded public school systems, depending on where we grew up. If the local public schools weren't great, we could still potentially go to a magnet school or an art school that had specialized programs for gifted children. We had a greater sense of safety, and healthcare wasn't so expensive. It's always been expensive. I don't think it was as extreme as it's been lately. I don't think it was to the extent now where people put off things a lot more than they used to save money. Some people are also dealing with the hassles of immigration, and they're going to be forced to leave. If you're somebody that was reliant upon a work-sponsored visa and you get laid off and you can't find another job, you have to leave. Those people, it's unfortunate, but they're leaving America not out of choice necessarily. They may be in a situation where they have to go back to their home country. I'll say that some of it is exaggerated. Oh, America's the worst country in the world. Well, statistically not really. It's actually not the worst country in the world. Is it the best at absolutely everything? No, it's not, but it's decent and has been decent at a lot of things. That's why so many people want to immigrate there and have wanted to immigrate there historically. Some of it is exaggerated. Some of it is a bit doomsday-ish. Some of it can get into the, oh, it's going to all collapse tomorrow. I don't really agree with that sentiment. I think it's over dramatic. I don't think it considers the totality of the circumstances. I don't think it considers all the advantages that America has. In America, you have tons of farmland. The country produces tons of technology, not manufactured necessarily always in the US, but the software, the high value add aspects of the business, America does really well. The country does a great job of motivating really bright people to work really hard and produce a lot of good things. So some of it is a little bit exaggeratory in my opinion. Is all of it? No. There's people with real grievances on there. I have my own grievances with America, looking at what my grandfather and my mother went through in terms of mental health crises. It's not all a rosy picture. Number two was the cynicism without statistics. I'm not opposed to a realistic way of thinking, but when it starts getting into the doomsday scenarios and oh, everything's gonna end, if you could predict that, I think you would become an extraordinarily wealthy person. My number three thought on this is don't make rash decisions based on what you read on Amerexit. I don't suggest, oh, you know what? I read the Amerexit subreddit. I'm gonna sell my car tomorrow. I'm gonna list my house for sale. Do all these different things that are pretty dramatic. I am a fan of discovery trips. I think before you ever commit to living in another country, you should go visit first. Go spend a month there. Go spend a couple of months there. Maybe spend 3 or 6 months there. You don't want to make rash decisions based on some people's negative experiences. You really want to make the decision that's right for you. I think sometimes some forums can become a bit of an echo chamber. For all of the people who are unhappy in the States, want to get out, some of them are unfamiliar with the horror stories. If you're not familiar, I'd recommend going and watching Paul Old Dog New Trick, his interview of broke expat John. This is an individual who left the United States with $30K in cash. Planned to stretch it out for 4 years, and I think it lasted him a year or something like that. It didn't go well. He got bailed out by the generosity of others, which was really fortunate. It was unfortunate that he got in that situation in the first place, that he didn't just wait it out to collect his social security check. All of these expat hotspot countries have tons of stories of failure and hardship and heartache, people losing their life savings, people getting ripped off on a business deal by another expat, people falling in love with someone only to find out the feelings were not reciprocal. You can go down the list. Moving overseas is not a one-size-fits-all solution. You'll never see me release a video, oh, you have to move to Thailand. There's no other better place to live. No, Thailand works great for me. I love Thailand, but it may not be right for you. I would like to see Amerexit move more toward planning your exit and less on frustration about the state of the country, but I understand it's the nature of the subreddit. I would never critique people on their feelings. I would never tell them that their feelings are illegitimate. I would just urge you, if you are thinking about leaving the US, don't make rash decisions. Select a few places that you're interested in, maybe one country in each of the popular regions. Go and check it out. If you get 2 weeks off work a year, save up your paid time off or your vacation days. Go check out the Philippines for 2 weeks, or go check out Thailand for 2 weeks, or check out Portugal, Colombia, Peru, Costa Rica is really popular. Spend time time, rather than dwelling on the negative feelings, if you can help it, take notes and try to figure out, okay, I'm looking for this kind of weather. I like this kind of food. I want to have these kinds of activities. Their language, figure out what your key criteria are. Go on those. Try to figure those out. Plan your discovery trip. Don't necessarily just drop everything and go because thinking, oh, I've got 10K in savings. I'm going to just go over and see how long it lasts. The world's gotten more expensive, unfortunately, because America's printed a lot of money and a lot of countries have to buy dollars to buy oil. It's made inflation go up around the world. Every country is suffering to varying degrees from inflation. Number 4 is be careful about Amerexit being a echo chamber. I definitely spent some time in there when I was back in the States feeling unhappy with life and frustrated, just reading these negative stories and not taking action, not putting the time I needed to put into researching or watching expat or digital nomad videos. I didn't put the time I could have into improving my digital skill set. Of course, I was working full time, so it did make it more difficult. Try not to dwell too much in the echo chamber. Try to think about what you can do to set yourself up. Make a long-term plan. Make a 5 or 10-year plan. It may take you 5 or 10 years to get the assets and the money together to pull this off correctly. It's not going to be an overnight thing. And I think when you are in that echo chamber, it sometimes causes the feelings to get worse or be concentrated such that you cannot take actionable steps toward success because you don't have the positive emotion to drive you there. I think it's really important to have some positive emotion driving you in your expat journey because it's not going to always be easy. There's going to be language barriers. There's going to be weather you're not accustomed to. There's going to be cultural differences. It's not just sunshine and rainbows, even though some channels do make it out to be that way. When we get in these echo chambers of critiquing our home country, we don't always think about the positives. It's important to have some perspective there and talk to some friends, have relationships with friends back home that have more positive feelings about your home country because they're going to help you see some of the things you should be grateful for and that also you may miss after you're gone. What is the 5th and final point that I have in regards to Amerexit? Point number 5 is that the Amerexit subreddit will grow in the coming years. If we enter this period of stagflation where things keep getting more expensive, people's incomes don't rise accordingly, you're going to have more and more frustrated and unhappy people. Looking at the financial independence aspect for myself, you sacrifice so much to become financially independent. You live a more stressful lifestyle doing that, perhaps a lifestyle without as much entertainment. By the time you hit your fire number, you're ready to get out. You've grinded so hard at a job. You've had late nights working. You've spent your weekends planning in your books, your Excel spreadsheets, and researching, watching tons of videos on life overseas and learning everything that you can learn. So once you've invested that much time into it and that much energy into it, you're going to be ready to leave. But not only that, you're going to tell other people around you, look, I'm done with this. I'm getting out of here. And similar to a church or religious institution, there will be messengers. There will be people going out there and saying, look, you can get out of here. You don't have to put up with this. Life can be better for some people overseas, and it might be better for you depending on your lifestyle preferences, your budget, the areas that you want to live in. Certainly beachfront or big cities is going to be more expensive than small town or mountain town. If things are continuing to get worse and you see the future not being as bright for yourself or future generations, and more people start to talk about that, which is common in the US. I hear about it from older people as well, which is surprising because a lot of people think, oh, it's just the young people that are unhappy or frustrated. No, there's a lot of older people that are like, I worked my behind off my entire life for this. This is what I get in return for the sacrifices, the stress, the hardship that I went through to build wealth. And I think if we continue to see that declining standard of living back in the West, that we'll see more and more people join this forum and try to plan their Amerexit. It's unfortunate. Some of what's caused this is that originally people came to America to escape the rigidity, the class structure in Europe. They wanted to escape that. It seems like America has reinstituted that to some degree, and a lot of people don't want to be a part of that anymore. So thank you so much for watching. This video has been 5 of my thoughts on Amerexit. If this video has been helpful to you, has taught you something new, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this, and we will see you next time.